You talk about problematic feelings, and I think I like your languaging around this. You use a very good word, problematic. And so let's talk a little bit about what are they, and what do you suggest we do about them?
Blame, shame, lack of forgiveness, anger. Now remember, we've agreed not to proceed on this journey until we've come to accept our situation. But that doesn't mean we don't still have feelings of anger and feelings of frustration, blame, shame, guilt. And I'm calling them problematic because I don't want to call them bad. I believe that anyone who's had to deal with and face a catastrophic diagnosis is entitled to feel whatever they want to feel. You want to feel anger, you want to feel blame, I think that's fine. The question is, during our journey of transformation, as we're reconstructing our life from the bottom up, do we want to hold on to those kinds of feelings? So it's not are they good or bad, it's about what do we want in our life. I personally don't want to walk around with a lot of anger. I don't find anger a pleasant feeling to experience. I don't feel that way about shame, guilt. I want those things ameliorated. I want them calmed down. I want tranquility. I want peace. I want joy. So it's a process of transformation. Can we take anger and change it into something else, like forgiveness? And a lot of it goes back to those ruts, those ways we've lived our whole life. Example in my life, I found that it's very easy for me to get angry at all those bad drivers. I drive the car and they cut me off and they always want to go too slow or too fast. Is there another way to drive my car? Is there another way to be in the world other than angry at the other drivers? And the truth is, I never asked myself that question. I was in a rut. And here's the funny thing. I don't know if you share this affliction of being angry at other drivers, but no matter how angry or loud, it never seemed to influence their driving. They're oblivious to what's going on. And I think in some ways that's a metaphor to this whole conversation, which is we're walking around reacting to people in our world, having all kinds of emotional storms cross our consciousness that have absolutely no influence on the people outside. They could care less. And I'll say it again, it's no fun to drive around angry. Now, what doesn't seem to work is to just say, well, I'm going to be a peaceful being today and everything will be nice, and just having positive, happy thoughts, that has very limited value from my experience. I hope that works for you, but for me, that's not so effective. What works better is for me to have a conversation with myself before I get in the car, as I'm walking to the car, to say things like, how do you want to experience this drive to the grocery store? Do you want to be angry, or do you want to enjoy it? What if someone gets in your lane and cuts you off or slows down? What if you have a detour and have to go around? So I kind of look at some of those kind of worst case scenarios, and when I do that, it's like they all sound so absurd and silly. It's like, it's a beautiful day. I'm alive. I get to drive myself to the grocery. What a gift. What gifts? Completely shifts my consciousness so that I'm in a position to forgive. So if someone cuts me off, rather than yelling at them, and even I may start, I stop myself and say, when have I not driven somewhere and cut somebody off? Of course I've done that. And sometimes you feel like a fool if you get caught. The point is, we're all human. There's an opportunity there to change anger into forgiveness. We can do the same with shame. We can do the same with blame. We can do the same with anything that's bothering us. I want to add one more point here, and that is sometimes these problematic feelings come from the outside, from outside influences. It's dangerous for us not to recognize that our sensibilities and our consciousness has changed. It's like you're probably more conscious since your diagnosis about the food that you eat, your overall general health. Should we be any less concerned with the thoughts and ideas we put into our mind? So maybe you've been a fan of horror movies all your life. Now's the time to ask yourself the question, do I really want to sit through another horror movie? Do I want to spend an evening having my adrenaline and my amygdala and different parts of my brain triggered that create fight or flight responses? Is that the neurochemistry I want to flood my system with? Because it's a choice, isn't it? Do I want to sit through another fire and brimstone sermon that makes me feel guilty, makes me feel like a bad person? And I'm not saying you shouldn't go to church or hear a sermon, but maybe it's time to rethink which person you listen to. Is it serving you in that way? If you're walking out feeling guilty and ill-prepared for your death, then that's not serving you very well. Maybe you listen to talk radio or some of the news channels that focus on all the news of the day and what's happening, and maybe you find yourself getting worked up and emotionally involved. Maybe you don't need to spend so much time doing that. Think about that diet. Think about what you eat, but think about what you see and what you hear and the ideas that you're putting into your consciousness. Because it's coloring and affecting your quality of life day to day. You've been warned. You have responsibility now to manage that the way you want it to be.